Wasn't he the guy that was shot in the head for, well, they don't say exactly, but we do know, we're told apparently, he had planned on printing interest-free money without the banks. He didn't want to play the game anymore. Bang. That's how that problem went away. Go and play a little tune, folks. Okay, somebody's asked me to talk about penalty points. Well, look, it's the same deal, folks. It doesn't matter what it is. The structure that's in place is identical in every way, shape, and form. It's like a scaffolding. They keep adding bits on, you see. Imagine a scaffolder starting, and he starts constructing. And he constructs the outline of the building in scaffolding poles, right? So they can build whatever they want to construct inside. But in theory, he could keep adding to the outside as well. It can go up and in and out and across and around like the branches of a tree. That's why they have branches of government, because they all got tracked back all the way to the source, the trunk, which goes into the ground, the earth. The tiniest leaf on a tree branches all the way back to the trunk, which eventually goes back to source, which I suppose was the seed. And that's what they keep doing. Penalty points, same thing. You asked for a position in the would you call it, the driving department? I don't know. Something like that. You asked for it. I'll tell you, I'm going to change track here slightly. I'm going to read a little something. It's not too long, but I just want to give you an idea about where this structure comes from. You see, the structure that is in place. There's no easy way of saying this to you, folks. It's not an Irish-made structure. You see, Ireland used to be run according to Brehon law. And that was what the people, we the people on the land, constructed. It was our construct. Still fiction, but it was our construct. And we were good with it, you see. Now, what you'll find is, believe it or not, if you go research a lot of the ancient peoples, Scotland, Wales, England, France, Germany, whatever, they all had the same. They all had a very, very similar ancient law to Brehon law. We just happen to know a bit more about it, I suppose. We're lucky. But they had the same thing. Now, they had different ideas about it because, you know, as warlords grew up around doing battle and killing and supposedly winning battles, they got to decide, right? Because they had the big stick or the big sharp sword. They chopped off enough heads until apparently everybody agreed. Yeah, we'll go with what he says. Anybody disagree? You put your hand up. Yeah, I disagree. Chop. Anybody else disagree? Surprisingly, nobody else disagreed. How convenient. So, just have a listen to this. This is from Chalmers and Asquith, Constitutional Outlines of Constitutional Law, and I just thought it was interesting. This is page 108. A British settlement or settled colony means any British possession which has not been acquired by, and I'm going to spell this for you, C-E-S-S-I-O-N, cession or conquest, and is not for the time being within the jurisdiction of a legislature constituted otherwise than by virtue of the British Settlements Act 1887, yada yada yada. Dominions are colonies possessing responsible government. The ministers are responsible to the legislature of the colony in question. Hey, doesn't that kind of sound like Ireland incorporated? Ministers, a legislature, and they're responsible to the head honcho that the Crown puts in position. But if you read Irish history books, particularly the Irish history books they give you in Irish schools, they kind of leave that bit out. They're silent on that bit, right? Unless you really go and do your research. A protectorate is a place outside His Majesty's dominions, placed under the protection of the British sovereign, who regulates its foreign relations. How interesting. Where a protectorate at the time of protection has an adequate settled government, it is assumed the British government allows it to legislate, subject to a veto on legislation. Otherwise, the protectorate is managed like a crown colony. And then it says, through the dignity of the native ruler. Though the dignity of the native ruler is placated. Well, isn't that just special? Huh? I'm going to skip forward a bit because it just gets better and better. Colonies have been acquired by occupancy. Occupancy. Don't you get letters in the post sometimes and you look at it and it says, to the occupier? If you respond to that, are you not telling them you're a military occupant? Occupancy is when the military come over and kick their way in, right, and they stay and they don't leave, they don't go. They're now occupying militarily. They send you a letter to the occupier, you answer, shit, you must be doing battle with somebody. Occupancy, conquest, cession, or mandate. The position of the mandatory colony is doubtful and depends on who is its sovereign. Well, in Ireland, apparently, according to the proclamation, that says, sovereign and indefeasible for all the Irish men and Irish women. I mean, the proclamation didn't say for all Irish men. It said all Irish men and all Irish women. A very progressive document. A lot of very clever men put that thing together, folks. I'll continue for a bit. An act provides that it shall be lawful for His Majesty in council to establish all such, see that word such, be careful of that one, such laws and institutions, and constitute such courts and officers, and to make such arrangements for administration of justice. Administration of justice. Not to actively cause justice to come about. Just administration of justice. You see, that's commercial, right? That's equity. Administration of justice as may appear expedient to His Majesty for the peace, order, and good government of His Majesty's subjects and others within the settlement. Section 4 enables the sovereign to confer jurisdiction as to matters arising within the settlement or any court of any other British possession. Now you see, I just want you to be clear here, folks. I'm not anti-British. I'm not anti-man. I love all people from all over the world, from all over the earth. I've met fantastic people on my travels, and I've pretty much been from one side of the earth to the other. But these guys write this down on a piece of paper, and they cast their spell. It's witchcraft. That's what it is. It's just witchcraft. Spelling. They write their little spells, one hieroglyph at a time. That's what they call it when they make what they call words, right? Spelling. And then they cast them, usually into what they call a post box, and the post service brings it to your door. Well, you think you're Mr. John Doe, so you think, oh, look, this is for me. I'm special. and you open it. Uh-oh. Apparently, you have been summoned. You've been asked to go somewhere, you think. They tell you go to Court 42, yada yada, Street Road, whatever. You think you know where that is. Maybe you don't. You pull out a map, an ordnance, which is another military term, ordnance survey map. And you think you locate it. You find where it is on the map. But the map, that's the piece of paper. That's just a representation of the layout of the streets. But it's not the actual street. And you go there. And you walk in and they say to you, are you Mr. John Doe? Hell yeah. Oops. You've just lied. They know you've lied. They don't tell you. Why would they? You've just held yourself in contempt, but they don't tell you that. Why? Because they're going to benefit. So they say, we'll give them another chance. What's your address? Oh dear, you told them again. You didn't know any better, most likely. But you did tell them. You didn't question them. They didn't tell you could ask them questions. I mean, they're asking you questions. You didn't. You don't seem to think you can ask them questions back. And there's men there. If you start questioning this guy who sits up the top of the room in the high chair, there's other men there. And they'll poke you. Hey, you answer him. And he'll even tell you, I asked the questions here. He's still not saying to you, you can't ask questions. We just assume these things. We join these dots in our mind. We create this. We're creating it. I mean, they even call themselves magistrates. From majesty, magi, the magicians. It's magic, folks. It's magic. And you make it real. You grant the power. See, magic does exist. Look at what witches do, for example. Witches don't cast spells. Eye of Newton, tow a frog and chuck him into a cauldron and stir around. That's bull. That's not what happens, but they do cast spells. For example, you'll see witches on a lot of the forums, for example, around the world, particularly the free men forums seem to have attracted a lot of these, well, a lot of them call themselves white witches, turns out they're black witches, but whoever. They seem to attract them. And they make comments like somebody will talk about something and they'll just throw something into the mix. They'll just throw doubt into the chat box, for example. They'll just say, oh, blah, 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 that's not good. I just have questions. And then if you ask them, well, what are the questions? Oh, they never seem to know. They just have questions, apparently. They use these tactics, you see, to cast doubt amongst your minds. Not necessarily my mind. They're not after me. They know my mind is closed off to them. But they still think they can get into your mind with these, their little methods. It's basically, the modern version of witchcraft, folks, is NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. It's an advanced version of witchcraft, wordcraft. So they pop in these kind of like Barnum statements, if you will. You know, he was a tall, short man, a thin, fat guy. You don't know, what did they mean, a thin guy, a fat guy? What, a fat, thin guy? What the hell is that? A tall, short man. Huh? What's that mean? So, their modern version of that is, if you will, they'll do things like, particularly on the forums, a lot of these guys think they're dealing with internet trolls. I actually think most of them are practicing this form of NLP/witchcraft. And witchcraft, not necessarily witch. I mean, what do they call the Masons? Craft. Freemasons. What craft? Witchcraft, rather.